Hi, how are y'all doing today? I'm here to answer any questions that you have, so just put them in the chat. Let me see. I've got all the chats. I should be able to see everybody's chat if you'll type a message in the chat section. Sound check. 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 If you have a question, just go ahead and put it in the chat for me. I can answer it for you. I know today's the deadline for filing franchise tax returns, so I'm just trying to get any questions answered while everybody's trying to get it filed. Even though the deadline is today, it doesn't mean, even though the deadline is today, you won't get charged a $50 penalty if you don't end up filing on time. Hi, if you have any questions, just let me know. Put any questions you have inside the chat so I can go ahead and answer them for you. If you have any questions, just put it in the chat for me. If you've already filed, let me know, or if you had a question before you finish filing, just let me know. Were you able to get all the answers to the questions that you had when you watched the video? Do you have any questions about filing? Or do you have any other questions that you want me to answer? Yeah, but I don't know where my web filing number was. Turns out I didn't apply for one, so I applied for it yesterday. Your web file number is something that would have been assigned to you after you registered your LLC or your corporation with the Secretary of State. It would have been in the initial letter that they sent you out. And if you didn't have access to that initial letter and you haven't received any notices from them, because their notices normally have it on there as well, then the other option you have is calling the 800 number. You said you applied for one. Did you um, did you ask them to like send you a copy of one, like through the automation or something? Yeah, it should be on there, and it'll start with either, let me see, there's RT, XT. So it should start with XT. And then there's another one, but that one's not very frequent. So RT, I believe, is for sales tax. XT is for the franchise tax. So you should see that maybe at the top of the letter. I'm working on a new video that shows you all the different ways that, depending on your situation, how you can get that web file number. Because I know that's one of the bigger challenges, to be able to file online and be able to file on time and all of that. But if for some reason you can't get it filed today, don't worry. Starting from 2024, they no longer charge the penalty, so you don't have to worry about a penalty for not filing on time. But you still want to get it filed pretty quickly, because the next, I guess, repercussion involved is your active status. You could lose your active status with the Secretary of State for not filing. So you don't want to do that, because there's a fee that you have to pay to get reinstated. And I actually have a guide on that for anybody that's in that situation where you've failed to file and then they've marked you down as inactive. If you're not sure whether or not your status is active or inactive, in the description for this live, I put the link to the 3 steps, the guide that I put together for the 3 steps for how to check real quick on what your status is for your company, whether it's active or inactive, because you'll want to definitely take action if you're seeing that your company is in inactive status or forfeited. You got the letter from the Secretary of State last August. File number. Okay, so the letter would have come from the Comptroller. So right after the Secretary of State, they're not the ones that send the web file number. The Comptroller actually assigns that. So they would have sent you like a welcome letter, and basically when they send their letter, they're saying, hey, we noticed that you registered with the Secretary of State, and that based on the type of filing that you did, here's what your responsibilities are. And so if you set up your LLC, then they would have said your responsibility is to file your franchise tax by May 15th every year, and your next one is due May 15th of the whichever year is next due. So there should be another letter, one from the Comptroller, and it would have been mailed to you. Now, I'm not sure if you, when you set up your LLC, if you used a service like LegalZoom or InkFile or one of those other companies, normally they sell you a service for like being your registered agent, and so they may have received the letter if you use their address for your business. And so if you have that service, then they should have a portal for you to log in and be able to see whether or not the Comptroller letter is in the like your documents with them. Is this your first time filing? Because normally, like when you call the 800 number to get a copy of your web file number, um, they would be able to like mail you a copy to like the last address on there. Oh, okay. It's okay. At least now they don't charge the penalty, and you don't have to worry about that part. You'll have enough time to go ahead and get that web file number to get it filed. That's the easiest way to get all the filings done, like year after year, because it really takes like 2 minutes to file, and it's even easier now than it was before. So, it's something that has to be done that they require, but it's not hard at all. It's literally just asking for a bunch of addresses, names and addresses, and making sure that all your information is up to date for what the public will be able to see. So there's a little bit of thought that has to go into what address and the information that you do fill out. Did you have any questions when you watched that video? I think I remember you mentioning in your video that if it's your first time filing, calling wouldn't be too helpful. Is that right? If your address is up to date with them, then the automation might allow you to go ahead and just send it for them to send you a copy to your last address that was on file. I think the bigger problem is like whenever your address has changed, or I've had some people that when they first registered, they used the like a third party's address, and then when it's time to file, that address is like no longer any good, and now they can't get a copy like mailed to them in that way. So it's more pertaining to them. But I would definitely try calling that 800 number. I think I put it in the video, and I think I can pull it up here if you need that. But it's on their website. It's pretty easy to find. Afraid I don't have my laptop right in front of me and using the phone to do the live. I've got an iPad here, but I am not familiar with how to use the iPad very well, so I'm trying to learn how to maneuver how it works. I'm more of a PC person than a Mac device person. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to look it up on here. Comptroller. And let's see. Contact. Let's see. Contact frequently called numbers, franchise tax. Let's see, not that one. You'll want to call 800 442 3453. That's 800 442 3453. And that, like I said, the number's in that video as well for what number to call. But it should be just an automation. And when you put in the your taxpayer number, it'll as long as your address is good, they'll be able to mail you a copy there. Let's see. think. Okay, there you go. Put in the chat. I'm actually in my daughter's account. I didn't have a chance to log in on her device. But there's the 800 number in the chat. Welcome everyone. Just let me know if you have any other questions. Just put it right there in the chat for me and I'll try to answer them as best I can. I've got an iPad next to me that I'm learning how to use, but I can answer, look up any questions that I don't know the answer to right away in case you ask me something that needs to be looked up. Just let me know if you have any questions though, and if you watched the video where I was explaining how everything works, and maybe if I didn't answer a question that you had. Welcome. Just make sure you put your question in the chat for me to answer for you. I had an interesting question that somebody asked me in the comments for the video. They were asking whether or not they could use their virtual office address for all of the address boxes in the public information report. That's a tricky question because that I know of, there are a few different types of virtual offices. One of them is literally just like a mailbox location where your mail is received and it's got like a physical address, but it's really just a post office. That would not work. That would technically mean your business is not in compliance if you end up using like if you try to use a PO box for the address lines that require a physical address. So like your principal office, that needs to be the address where you keep your paperwork and your business documents, your records. The second section is the principal place of business. So for that, it's where you're actually doing your business. And there, again, the comptroller is looking for a physical address for where you actually conduct business, which I know is a tricky question for anybody that is doing their work like online. And so they expect you to use like your home address if you don't have a secondary physical address to use. And then the third place that you need a physical address is your registered agent. And if you decide to be your own registered agent, you still have to have a physical address where you can actually receive the mail successfully. Like say, for instance, you were being sued, then they would need to be able to have somebody come out to your physical location during business hours and provide you the court paperwork, like basically serve you. So that's the reason why they need a good physical address. And if at any point the Secretary of State finds out that you don't have a physical address on file, then you could lose your active status for your company. And that is not good because then you're losing that protective veil that you have for having an LLC for limited liability. Then they'll be able to sue you for your personal assets, which is not good. I know you want to be able to protect your assets, and that's most of the reasons. A lot of times that's why somebody will set up an LLC. When's the best time to file? Actually, the first time that I had the earliest I've had somebody file was really at the beginning of the year. Because then when you log into your account, you're able to see exactly what, you're able to see the franchise tax return that's due, and you're able to go ahead and click on it and file it. So I had somebody file as early as, I think it was either January or February. So you can knock it out. Like say if you have sales tax returns to file, and January 20th is when the sales tax return is due, like regardless of your frequency of filing, then when you file that, you can go ahead and file your franchise tax return. That way you're done with both at the same time for the whole, at least for the franchise tax, you'll be done for the whole year. And your sales taxes just depends on what your frequency is, whether or not it's quarterly, monthly, quarterly, or semi-annually or annually. So that just depends on what schedule they put you on. So I'm just watching the chat here, guys. So let me know if you have any other questions. Like I said, the deadline is today, but there is no penalty if you do not file on time. But you do want to get it done pretty quickly because they will take the next steps as far as marking your account as forfeited or inactive. The next question was, do I need an accountant? Do I need an accountant or lawyers, or can I file on my own? Let's see. You can actually file it on your own. Most people, and that's why I made the video. I wanted it to be easy for a regular business owner that can do does like a certain level of paperwork on their own anyways. You can go ahead and just file your own franchise tax return because it's too easy to not do yourself. And that way you know that it's being done right, you know that it's being done on time. It's super easy to do, so you don't necessarily need an accountant or a lawyer to do it. Now, if you do have questions, I've been answering, most of the questions that people have regarding the different questions that do pop up. But if you have a very special situation, then you could refer to an accountant or an attorney to get some advice on how to proceed to make sure that you do it right. But you can always, if you do make a mistake or if you do something that needs to be fixed or changed, you can do an amendment to the actual filing in order to get it updated and corrected. So, and that doesn't cost anything either. All you have to do is get the paper return version, download it, fill it out, and at the top write amendment and then mail it in. And it takes them 8 to 12 weeks, I believe, to actually get it done, to get it processed and get it updated in the system. And then because even when you're filing this with the comptroller, you're really dealing with them as well as the Secretary of State, because the information that you put there in your franchise tax filing gets transferred over to the Secretary of State, and the Secretary of State has their own workload. So it takes time from the time that you file to the time that the Secretary of State updates your records, to where when you look at your account online to check your status and to look to see if the updates have already been made, then you have to then it might be like months before. I think I did a change before last year or the year before. I think it was last year. And it took several months for the Secretary of State to make that update after the franchise tax filing, because the updates were made there, which is the free way of making updates to your officers, directors, members, and your mailing address and things like that. So now your registered agent, though, if that changes, you'll need to do that directly with the Secretary of State. The comptroller's franchise tax return will ask you about who your registered agent is. But if you have any changes, you do have to go onto the Secretary of State's website and do an update there. And that costs $15 on their website to do that update. And that's pretty quick when they process that. But once it's done there, then it should reflect in the comptroller's website when you do a search for your company name. If you ever want to look up your company name to see what does it look like when somebody else does a search, because this is public records, there's a link in the description which says is your 3 steps to checking their status, if whether or not you're forfeited or inactive. Click on that link, and once you enter your email, you'll be taken to a guide, and it'll tell you step by step. I think it's just 3 steps for how to look up your company name and what your status is, whether it's active or inactive, but it'll also show you all the information that's currently showing as public records. So that's why you do want to put a little bit of thought into what name and address that you do provide as you're answering the questions in the public information report. This also comes into play where it's important to have it accurate, because say if you were going to go apply for a loan or set up a bank account, the bank will want to know, who's in charge and who's authorized to make decisions on on behalf of the company. And so they'll look at the comptroller's website to see what the information is, to see who's allowed to file and who's not allowed to, who's allowed to set up an account, who's allowed to, you know, take certain actions regarding the company and make decisions regarding the company. So you want to think about who you put down as far as who the owner is or who the members are. If you decide to put a manager, that's not necessarily an owner, you'll want to list them there if they are a key decision maker in the company. But if they're not, and you know, if you think of it in regards to, say, Walmart, for example, Walmart has uh, managers, general managers, and things like that, but their managers and general managers don't get listed, you know, on that level of official paperwork because somebody can get fired, they'll get replaced, and so then an update will be required, would be required. I appreciate y'all joining today. Just put up any questions you have inside the chat. I'm looking at it on a separate screen here so that I can keep up with the different questions that each of y'all ask. On the virtual address question that I got, yeah, if it's a PO box type of virtual address, uh, that will, you can use that for your business mailing address, but you wouldn't be able to use it for anything else. And then if you have a service like Regis or Opus or something like that, where you can actually go in and there's always a receptionist, or and there's always somebody there to receive. Well, there's somebody there that there's there to receive mail, or for you to be able to work in an office setting. Because I know this, they do deals as far as like who can, um, like if you're renting their address, so to speak, more like a mailbox, then you also have the right to go in and have like meetings and stuff like that at their offices. And so you could still use that as the physical address for the business as well. But when it comes to the registered agent, that won't work because most virtual offices don't want to give permission to you to be your registered agent. So if any of you do want to protect your privacy and you want to be able to um, have a physical address, but it not be your home address, then you can hire a third party. And the company that I've used before is Texas Registered Agents. And I'll grab their link. Let me see. In just a second. Let's see if I can look up their web address and post that for you guys. But they are good because they set up a portal for you when you set up an account, and the service is only $35 a year. That to me is a great cost per year. I think I've heard different prices, like what LegalZoom and InkFile. I think it is a Busy. There's a few different companies out there. When they do it and you let them be your registered agent, I've heard people saying that they're paying like a couple of $100s, or that they're kind of stuck in a subscription model where they're paying monthly for kind of like a whole package. But the package includes things like filing the franchise tax return, which is what we already talked about in the video that I showed you guys, exactly how to file it yourself. So it's like super simple. So it's the franchise tax return, and then it's being your registered agent. But if by the time you add up all the cost of a subscription, it can get really expensive. So it's more cost effective to use a company like Texas Registered Agent. Okay, let's see. I'm trying to get the link. I appreciate y'all's patience. I'm still trying to get used to this iPad. Let's see. Copy. Okay. And again, I am using my daughter's iPad or logged into her account. So that's the address for the, if you need a registered agent. And like I said, they only charge $35 a year. Okay. So I called them. I think they're sending me 5 letters with my web file number on them. I'm guessing I can call during their business hours to get my number spelled out to me. Maybe. When I call the comptroller, they're pretty big sticklers on being able to verify your information, and they say they use that I've seen they use 2 pieces of information. The first one is your they'll verify information based on your last filing, which if it's your first time filing, you're not going to have that. And their second piece of information that they ask for is for a payment that you would have sent them, like a previous payment that might be on file. But once again, if you've never filed before, you're not going to have that. So I'm not sure if you'll have any luck getting it straight from them. Usually, even when you get on the phone, the best that they'll do is the same thing as what the automation will do, which is when you call the 800 number and you choose the options for receiving your web file number being mailed to you, and it'll be mailed to like the last address on file. That's usually what the representatives are willing to do as well. That's about as far as they'll go. Now, there was one exception to that. I did have a client that had their account was their company status was forfeited, and so they purchased the guide and they were going through the process of getting like their web file number. And when they contacted them, the only department that was willing to give it to them, because they had an LLC that was like years old and they had never filed a franchise tax return, so they were seriously delinquent. And so at this point, they were put into collections, like for not filing, and they were charged not just the $50 penalty, but they were also charged like an estimated it's like an estimated tax, and it was like $1,500. All in all, it was pretty expensive for them to get their LLC back on an active status. But they were able to talk to the collections department, and the collections department said that they as long as the owner can verify some key pieces of information, they'll just give them the web file number, and that's exactly what they did. So that was the one department that I know that if your account has a collections with the comptroller, then their collections department would be willing to verify you over the phone and then give you your web file number. But if you're a new filer, that likely won't work for you, especially if you're not behind like that. I'm curious, you said 5 letters. I'm wondering what 5 letters they'd be sending out. I can't recall any options that would have had them send it to you. For now, I guess I will wait for the letter with my web file number to get to me and file immediately. Yeah, but you should be able to get it done in time easily. They don't take that long to mail it out once you put in the request. So I'd say just maybe like a week. I don't think it'll take even 2 weeks for it to get to you. It's going to come to you regular mail, so you are at the mercy of the post office. So once you get that in, you should be able to set up the account. Did you watch the video where I showed you how to assign connect your tax account to your profile? Did you already set up a profile? Because I did. That was like the last video I posted, which was how to set up your profile and how to connect your tax account to it once you have your web file number. I'm just curious if you had a chance to watch that one. Please feel free to put any questions in the chat. I'm monitoring it on another screen, so that's why I keep looking off to the side, because I want to make sure I don't miss anybody's questions. My stats are showing there's like 7 people watching, and I might be one of them because I've got it pulled up on this other screen. But like I said, if you've already filed, let me know, put it in the chat. If you are still waiting to file, let me know what's stopping you from filing. There's a question of how much do I charge to file. I can assist with a quick consultation, and my consultations are $100. So for $100, I can walk you through the process of getting filed so that you can get it done, and be confident that it was done correctly. If that is something that you're interested in doing, you can just send me an email. I'm going to put that in the chat. Yes, I got the profile up and connected the taxpayer number. I see the franchise tax and sales and use tax. But what's stopping me is the web file number. Yep, you are right on point with what's the next step. So yep, well, as soon as you have that web file number, did you already get your web file number for your sales tax? Or is the franchise tax the only one you're waiting for? And then the last question I got was, does that include the filing? Yeah, so the franchise tax doesn't cost anything like the actual filing. There's no tax to actually pay. As long as you make less than $2.47 million a year, then you won't owe anything. You won't have to file the longer forms. Once you reach that level of income at like $2.47 million a year, then you'll have to file either the easy form or the long form. And then there'd be a different video for that type of filing. But I've created this video specifically, these last few videos specifically to help small business owners that make less than that amount per year. And so there's no tax due with the actual franchise tax filing. It's just a matter of keeping up with your responsibilities for having an LLC filed with the Secretary of State or a corporation, and making sure that you file on time so you don't lose your active status. My fee is just for my consultation, which is $100. And there's a booking option on my website, so I put it in the chat there. It's lomarisper.com, and then if you need to send me a message, you can send it to loma@lomarisper.com. Does anybody have any other questions? I think I'll stay on for a few more minutes. If anybody else does have any questions, I'll be here till about, let's say 8:30, so for about another 13 minutes or so. So please do put a question in the chat if you do have a question for me. Let's see. Last question is the web file number for franchise tax different from the sales tax? Yes, yes, it is. You should have received in your letter for sales tax when you applied for your permit. You would have received the web file number there. So that one would start with a RT. So that's the web file number you need for sales tax in order to link it to your profile correctly. And the rules are going to be about the same for getting that web file number. So you might need to give them a call. Let me see if I kept that other web page up. Comptrollers for sales tax. So the same 800 number. Did you hear any options for the sales tax web file number? If not, I'm gonna copy and paste the sales tax department's number here in the chat, because each department can answer you questions for that particular tax. So sales tax doesn't give information about franchise tax, and franchise tax doesn't give information about the sales tax. Okay. Abel said, for subcontractor work, do I still need to file sales tax if I'm working for a company instead of offering services of my own flooring business? Off the topic question, no worries. Let's see, for subcontractor. As a subcontractor, is the main company handling the charges for sales tax? Because that's going to be the key part here, is whether or not they're charging the original customer the sales tax themselves. And then for your part, if you just do straight labor and you don't have anything specifically that's taxable, like say if you were building a cabinet and then you're charging for the price of the cabinet, then that might be taxable. You would want to give the comptroller a call to get clarification about different scenarios depending on how you conduct your business. But if you're just doing straight labor and you don't have you're not buying the actual like materials and then reselling it to the main company, then you wouldn't end up having to charge sales tax. But if you have a permit, then that's another story. You must have applied. If you have a permit, you must have applied for that permit, and then you'd want to refer to what you put on the application for why you needed a sales tax permit. Let's see, last question. No, the contractor contact web file website. There is an option for you to call them. Yep, you can call the comptroller and just get some clarification to see if they can give that information to you over the phone. But if they're not willing to, and with sales tax, that one does have a penalty if you don't file. So once you get a permit for your sales tax, it's important to make sure that you follow the filing schedule that they give you. Normally, like for most businesses, they'll ask you to file quarterly. Yep, it looks like quarterly is the option for sales and use tax due in July. Is that your first return that's due? Because if you miss any of those filings, there's two issues. The first one is they'll charge a $50 penalty. The second one is that if you take too long to file, they'll send you an estimated tax bill, and it's like $1,500 if you don't end up filing on time, or if you take too long to file once it's past due. So the $50 is automatic for the penalty if you don't file by the date. And so July 20th would be, I haven't looked at the calendar to see, I don't have that calendar in front of me. But if the 20th is on a weekend or a holiday, it'll be the next following business day. But if it's on a weekday and there's not a weekend or a holiday on that day for the 20th, then it's going to be due exactly on July the 20th. And I'm working on an updated video on filing the sales tax return. Just trying to give like basic information for how to file. I have one that I put out like a few years ago, but they've changed so much of the information on the portal, so the screenshots don't match, and it might be a little bit hard to follow as far as instructions. They actually just recently changed it again, and so I'm gonna end up. I think the last screenshot that I had was still old as well, so I'm gonna have to do a new filing in order to get the newer screenshots to put in a new video for the next video for how to file sales tax returns. I think the tricky part about sales tax is that most people don't realize that they're supposed to charge sales tax when they are or when they're not supposed to. The best thing to do is to start looking on their website to see what, like if you're a service-based company, what the tax, whether or not it's a taxable service, because some services are taxable, but there's certain services that are not taxable. And so that's what I was saying to you, Abel, is if you're just doing the labor, likely that's not going to fall into the category of being a taxable company. And so if you don't have a permit, then you're not responsible for filing a thing. If you do have a permit, though, even when you don't have any sales, you still have to file. You would file like a zero sales tax return, because it's almost like a placeholder. And if you don't file that, then they'll charge the $50 penalty. So you want to make sure that you file every quarter if you're set up on quarterly. And if you're somebody that doesn't have very many, if you're somebody that doesn't have very many sales throughout the year, where you end up actually having to turn in sales tax, you can call the comptroller and request that they put you on annual filing, and that way you don't have to file like every quarter. You could file just like once a year, just like your franchise tax return, and then you'll be done with it with that one filing. But that only applies like if you don't have like a lot of sales tax that you'll be collecting and turning in order to qualify for the annual filing. Let's see. I started my LLC mid last year. So when you applied for your sales tax permit, the application asks you when you're going to start having sales. When do you expect to start having sales? And based on that is when they assign you what your first filing date is. So I would say if you started your company and mid last year, and you got your sales tax permit mid last year, there's a high likelihood you're behind on your sales tax returns. Have you received any letters from them, assuming that your current address is on file, your mailing address? They would have sent you basically a bill. That's the situation in which they would have sent you like a $1,500 estimated tax bill. So you want to make sure that if you call them, they'll tell you exactly what's going on with your account, as far as like if they've already sent out like a bill, because then at that point, then it's pretty soon after that it ends up in collections, which is really bad, because the comptroller is very aggressive when it comes to like the debt that you owe them for penalties, taxes, and all of that. And then they start sending mean letters, like they want to put a lien on your assets, like your bank account, stuff like that. So that's not good. Chops and Sloans asked, is this information on my website? On my website, I have a membership where you're able to, when you join the membership, that's where you have access to all the courses that I put together. It also gives you access to the private community where you can ask me questions. And then I also hold a monthly meeting every month. I hold one live, just like we're doing right now, except for you'd be able to see the other members on the live video call. And then we do like a 1 hour call, and the business members are able to ask me any questions that they want during the meeting. And we do this, so we do that once a month. But in between the month, if you have questions, you're always able to post the question in the community, and I answer questions there. Yeah, I'd definitely say you'd want to call them because the sales tax one, if it's quarterly, but there's already several that have been due, um, unless you gave them a later date for when you expected to start making money. Got a couple more minutes to go. Are there any other questions you guys have? Also, if I, I'm trying to learn how to do these live more, like to where more people get notifications about them. I'm not sure if you guys received a notification to participate in this live or to watch this live. Just let me know if you got a notification, like if you subscribed and you just like chose the option to get notified, or if you just happen to see me somewhere else. And I'll try to do better about making sure that I put the word out there. I appreciate everybody for coming in today. Okay, yeah, I've been pushing to make something this upcoming month, which is what I told them. Okay, so it's possible that that they updated their system to make sure that you're not. Yeah, and that's right. It could be that could be why it's due in July. So it's really hard to see. Um, you've been working on it since August. Okay, so it's like you're working in the blind until you have this web file number and you have everything connected with the tax account to your profile. Because once you have that, then you can, when you're logged in, you're going to be able to see whether or not you have any tax returns that are outstanding. It'll be like literally a list, and you'll just be able to click each bubble for you to be able to file each one that's due. So it's possible they went in and just made an adjustment in the computer for you. That way, you're not responsible for filing zero, uh, like zero tax returns, because the actual tax returns, when you, if you like, this happens to a lot of people. They'll run and go get a permit, and then they don't think that they needed to file because they didn't have any sales yet. But that's not the case when it comes to sales tax. You actually have to file a zero sales tax return. There's a box that you check to let them know that you didn't have any sales, and then you just go ahead and submit it like that. It may seem kind of silly, but it's a good way for them to keep up with making sure that you haven't forgotten them. That, you know, if you had sales, make sure you report, and if you didn't have any sales, just keep them in the loop that that's the case. If you end up going through, you know, a bit of a dry spell for too long, you can always request to be switched to like an annual filing. But if you are on your way to making sales, and you think you'll be, you know, moving forward pretty quickly or in the next few months, then it's okay to go ahead and stay on the quarterly. That way you don't have to go like back and forth on switching the frequency. It's just really important to make sure, whatever frequency it is, to file it, even if you're going to end up filing zero, or if you're going to need to file an actual amount. All right, guys, if there's no other questions, I appreciate everybody for coming to watch the live today, and for participating in the live. Some of y'all may not have asked a question, but you may have gotten, information from other people's questions, and that's really like a good way to work out your thoughts, is when you're working, with each other, on asking the questions, and they might ask something that you didn't exactly think about, or they might be asking the exact question that you're thinking about. That's kind of how my membership works out, where I've got different business owners that come in, and they ask questions, but then sometimes they're just listening to the other owners asking questions. And so, it costs less than $1 a day, and you can sign up on my website at lomawhisper.com, if you have any questions. And then, and there's also some more information about the membership and how that works. It's called the BAM Boss membership, and BAM stands for Business and Money Management. Uh, so that's why I named it BAM Boss. That's actually my original company name is BAM, Business and Money Management, and I've been in business for about 25 years now. But yeah, I set that up because I noticed a lot of small business owners can use help with random questions as they're doing different things in their own businesses. And I want to give a good community, put a good community together where you can ask questions whenever you want, without having to go and hire like an accountant just to ask a question, or go hire an attorney, because sometimes it doesn't take all that for some of the questions that you guys have. It might be pretty simple, that you can ask, and I'm able to answer for you, or I'm able to look up and find out what the answer is, and post the response back to you. That way you have what you need in order to make good decisions for your own business. But once again, I appreciate y'all coming through. If you have any other questions, just let me know. I always answer all my comments. So if it's past the live is over and you have anything else, if you put it in the comments, I'll still read it and reply. And I appreciate you guys coming through. And if you have any specific topics you want me to talk about next, or you want me to shoot in a new video, just let me know in the comments as well. Thank you, and I appreciate everything. Bye-bye.